Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of College Football Game Day Live. I'm your host, Thor Nystrom, joined as always by Mike Farrell of Mike Farrell Sports. Over the next 90 minutes, Mike and I are going to go over our best bets on today's card, sides, totals, player props, the whole gamut. We're also going to be answering all of your audience questions, so please type them into the chat and we will get to them as we go. Please also hit that like button. It helps us get the word out there and get more people in the room. Mike Farrell, are you ready to get into today's card?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm pretty upset. NC State ruined a nice little parlay I had going
Yeah.
with Wisconsin. The 8 was like, I don't know. UVA stinks. 8 was too much. I probably shouldn't have laid it, but yeah. I'm ready to rebound though.
You were at least at the push until the very end of that game, and then the Virginia kid. The ending of that game was bizarre. The
It was
Virginia kid gets
crazy.
up and he mean mugs after the touchdown. They get the 2 point conversion, but the penalty, and then they had the jumping over the guy on the last field goal attempt when they blocked it. Got to kick again. The end of that game was ridiculous. NC State did end up pulling out the win, but we got a lot of games to get into, so let's get right into it. Mike, starting at noon Eastern today. Florida State is at Clemson. This line has sort of settled in at Florida State -2.5. What is your lean or angle on this game?
So this is transfers versus locker room. If you
Yeah,
follow recruiting at all, Dabo doesn't like the transfer portal.
sure
Doesn't use
doesn't.
it. FSU has used it ingeniously under Mike Norvell, and he had to, honestly, when he came and got hired. And during the COVID year, 2020, wasn't able to recruit on the road. New coach, he had a year delay in development, and they weren't a good football team. And then he started hitting the portal and getting some key acquisitions. You look at most of the key offensive guys came from someplace else. So, if Dabo loses this game, everybody's going to say you better hit the portal and you better change your ways. I think he's going to lose this game. I have Florida State rebounding. That red bandana game up in Boston is always a difficult one. Florida State always struggles up in Boston. I think it's good they struggled. I think it was something that can sort of reset this team, allow Norvell to point some things out. I like the offenses, versus defense matchup here. For Florida State, Clemson has a very good defense, but they tend to overrun things. I think if Florida State remains patient and establishes the running game, which hasn't been great, they're going to win this football game. My prop on it is Will Shipley anytime touchdown scorer for Clemson because he's gonna score. He just does. He always has a pretty good game against them. So take Florida State, lay the points, and bang on Shipley scoring a touchdown.
I haven't bet this one yet, but my definite lean is to Clemson. We'll see if I can get there, but before in the next hour and a half or so. So for me, Clemson, you watch this Clemson team, a couple of these games we see, and it makes your eyes bleed a little bit. But outside of not having the explosive passing element, every other factor of that team is there. You mentioned that they have the salty defense still. They're still running the ball well with Shipley. And the offensive coordinator he had a dominant run offense last year at TCU, so it's not a surprise with Shipley. And the passing efficiency has been there. It's just there's no explosive element whatsoever. This game is going to come down to, can Clemson generate just a couple explosive plays? Because Florida State's defensive weakness by far is allowing too many explosive plays. So you have this one offense that hasn't generated them yet against this defense where they allow you to generate them. This could be what in sort of a sneaky way, what the doctor ordered for Clemson, turning the offense around potentially. We'll see if Florida State can hinder their efficiency at all. I just didn't love what I seen of Florida State last week. And the other thing is, I think Clemson can take away that run game of Florida State's, which hasn't been that good so far. I've been disappointed with Trey Benson. He was my boy coming into this year, but just hasn't run as well as I thought he would. And if Clemson's able to take away that run game, then Florida State needs to win this one through the air with Jordan Travis, who appears to be banged up right now. I mean, he's going to play in this game, but they're going to need Jordan Travis succeeding through the air to win it. One of my props goes to that, Mike. I took the over a half a touchdown for Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, anytime touchdown scorer. And we'll get into more props as we go along. But I would shade this one to Clemson. So we have a slight disagreement, Mike. My line on it was closer to a pick 'em. Mike, the next one we got here, Oklahoma is traveling to Cincinnati today. This line opened up on Sunday. This is a noon kickoff as well. On Sunday, this one opened up at Oklahoma minus 13.5. I got it at 13.5. A couple days later, is all the way up to 14.5. Stayed there for most of the week. I checked this morning, and this line is now settled in at 14. So we're right on that line. With that one, Mike, Oklahoma minus 14 at Cincinnati. What side do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with Oklahoma. It's one of those situations where they started off 3-0 last season and then fell off a cliff. This is a different football team. They're playing a little bit better on defense. Still haven't played anybody, so we really don't know how good Oklahoma is. But the offense is humming. I don't think Cincinnati is going to be able to hang with them. I think this could get into a situation where Oklahoma goes up a few touchdowns. Cincinnati tries to do what they're not good at to try to come back, and it could get out of hand. At the very least, I think it's a 17-point victory for Oklahoma. Cincinnati's horrible against the spread too. My buddy Keith dug into some numbers. They're 1-5 in their last 6 games as the underdog, 3-8 against the spread overall. They just don't seem to hit the number, and Oklahoma is hitting the number, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. So the funny part about this, you could bang the under. I think it's high. So I'm not saying do it. Take Oklahoma, and think about the under here because I think it's a little bit high. And one prop, Dylan Gabriel's 2.5 passing yards, go above that. He's going to throw for 3 or 4.
I got a couple props on this one as well, Mike. I lean to your side. I'm actually on your side. Like I mentioned, I'm laying it with Oklahoma, especially with it at 14. The 14.5, it gets closer. My line on this is Oklahoma minus 14.7, but I like the Sooners in this one. You mentioned Cincinnati and their defensive profile, who they played so far. Their defense is 36th SP plus. But that comes against a schedule where the 3 offenses they played in terms of SP plus ranking on offense, number 55, number 105, and an FCS team. And what you've already started to notice with Cincinnati's defensive statistical profile is they give up too many explosive plays, particularly through the pass. Cincinnati is 127th out of 133 in defensive passing explosiveness and number 133, dead last in ISO PPP. That's a measure of the explosive play rate that you're allowing. So you're able to hit Cincinnati deep, like I said, particularly through the air. Oklahoma's offense is an efficiency machine at the very minimum. Nobody is stopping them in terms of the efficiency, but they can also hit the deep one, and Cincinnati allows it all the time. Like that's just what you can do to them. Cincinnati might be able to generate a little bit of offense here, but I just don't see them generating enough points to keep this thing within 2 touchdowns. Mike, in terms of the prop angles, I'm on basically all the Gabriel overs, not rushing yards. That one I'd shade a little bit under, but his passing yard one I thought was set too low, in the 250s, I believe. I was going to look up where we got that thing now. But that one I would definitely go over on. And I also like the Farrell, his overs as well.
It's 259.5 for Dylan Gabriel.
I go over on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Farrell is 48.5.
I go over on Farrell too. And on Prize Picks, you can get a fantasy points thing. I think they set Farrell in the single digits. I don't know about that. I think, Farrell could get over that 48.5 on one reception in this game. That's just the way sort of Cincy's defense is constituted. So we both like the Sooners in that one. Mike, moving to our last game that's a noon Eastern kickoff today. We just talked about 2 Power 5 ones. Let's move to the G5. I'm intrigued by this game. Western Kentucky traveling to Troy in a game where Troy opened as a 3-point favorite. This thing has gotten up to Troy minus 3.5 later in the week. Who do you like in this one?
I like Troy. I think we're going to agree on this one. Western Kentucky's kind of banged up, and Troy is actually very good against the spread. If you bet this team, consistently, you're going to win money. They're 10-5 in their last 15 games, just straight up against the spread. And Western Kentucky has kind of been disappointing against the spread as well. So I like Troy here. Western Kentucky valiant effort, I guess, against Ohio State, but just missing too many guys, too banged up. Troy is a solid football team. Make a lot of mistakes, and I think they're going to cover this game.
Mike, you mentioned Western Kentucky being banged up. You're totally right. Malachi Corley was able to, their best offensive player. He was able to come back against Ohio State, but he missed the game earlier this year. He'd been banged up. And the rest of their receiving core is banged up right now. Michael Matheson, a guy who for a couple years they've relied upon, he's been out with a hip injury. And then Delvin Smith, the kid that they'll put into the slot and different stuff like that, he's injured now as well. I think he's questionable for this game. And Western Kentucky can only pass. I mean, that's the only thing they do. Their defense is way down. A defense that the 2 years previous to this, they finished top 5 in turnovers and takeaways, I guess, both those seasons. But then they lost a ton on defense over the offseason. Qualitatively, they're way down, but also they're not getting those turnovers to sort of bail them out of some of these drives where they got their back against the wall. So you've just seen that defense crash down. Ohio State did whatever they wanted against them. Right now, WKU, in terms of SP+, 122nd defense overall, 131st SP+ in rushing success rate. This is a smash spot for Kamani Vidal, Troy's running back, who had a tough matchup against a Power 5 team. But outside of that, he's been running really well since the middle of last season. He got on a tear later on. He's going to rip up this Western Kentucky defense. And when Troy's run game gets going, that's when you can trust Gunnar Watson to do like the little sideline to sideline passing thing that he likes to do to keep that offense on schedule. Where you get afraid of Gunnar Watson is when you have a 2-touchdown deficit and you need to be like, Gunnar, we need to get back in this game. That's when he starts going YOLO and throwing the interceptions, different stuff like that. This is going to be a really good situation for them. And by the way, speaking to the Western Kentucky passing offense, which has typically been so good, only 95th in success rate so far. So what we'll see on that one. But Troy, the 48th SP+ defense, I think they're going to be up to the task here. So I'm going to go with Troy in that one too. We'll get back to the games here in a second, and your audience questions here in a second. So type in any questions you have on bets into the chat. We'll get to them in 1 second here. But first, please download the Betting Pros app for iOS and Android. It's a really good app. It's what I use to track my picks, and you can get any of our picks if you follow us on there. You can follow me at it's Betting Pros /Thor, and then there's like a follow button on there. Once you have the app, you turn on the notifications, you'll get my picks as I lock them in, or any of my coworkers who are on that app as well. But you can also track your own picks, see where you're doing well, see where you're doing poor, different stuff like that. And you can also set line alerts for games that you're watching. See if they fall into your range, you get the alert right away so you can go in there and hit it. You can get that app on the app stores or at bettingpros.com/apps. Alrighty, Mike, let's hop into the mailbag for the first time today. And guys, you can keep typing those questions in there and we'll get to them as we go. Mike, the first one is from Riley Burchard. He asks, curious to hear thoughts on a couple games. Virginia Tech versus Marshall, Western Kentucky versus Troy. We just hit that one. And Georgia Tech versus Wake Forest. Mike, the first and last one there, and thank you for the question, Riley. That Riley asked, we were not scheduled to hit them today, so let's get to those quick. Virginia Tech and Marshall. Do you have a thought on that one, Mike?
I mean, Virginia Tech's just so bad. I think it's 5.5 for Marshall, right?
Think so.
I mean, I'm going to take Marshall. It's funny because I like Brent Pry. I think, but I just don't know what's happening there. I mean, they're just so bad. They never got a quarterback in the portal. It's 2 straight years they haven't got a quarterback in the portal. We saw your guy Drones. He's not effective. Wells isn't effective. Nobody's effective. They're just awful in every way. And Marshall is a solid football team. A lot of people don't know about, but a good coach, good coordinator as far as offensively. I like Trickett. So I think Marshall's going to cover that one by the 5.5. And Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. I'm going to take Wake Forest. I still don't trust Georgia Tech. Two Brents here. I'm going against both.
Yeah, the live line is Marshall -5.5. Not surprised by the line movement on that one. It was lower earlier this week. My line on it is Marshall minus 5.6. Mike, that one's the Grant Wells Revenge Bowl. Grant Wells going back into
Yeah,
Huntington
but he
there.
sucks. He's
He's
horrible.
bad. He's bad.
Bad. No
And,
offense, Grant. Listen, I know we're in a soft world where we can't insult anybody, but he's awful.
yeah, not good. Yeah, and that's why you have to bring in Kyron Jones, who can throw. They have a tough time manufacturing offense. Virginia Tech does, and I don't think they're stopping Ali. I think it's pretty much that simple. When Virginia Tech's quarterbacks put the ball in the air, you're always afraid that there's going to be a takeaway on the other side. And Marshall's got a salty defense. I think the 5.5 makes it tough. Like I said, my line's Marshall minus 5.6. So you're right there on that. But I think I would lean to Marshall in that one. I think the better bet in that game is the under. Mike, it's funny. My system's total on that game. Sometimes it just gives you one that are ridiculously low. My system has a total on that game at 27. So, I mean, there's not going to be many points scored, I don't think, particularly on the Virginia Tech side. And then, Marshall, once they get a lead, it's just sit on the ball, hand the ball to Ollie, hand the ball to
Dude,
Ollie,
the
hand the ball
lines.
to Ollie.
I mean, the over/under is 41. So you're 27. I don't. I'm trying
Go
to think
under.
of a differential that you've had that's bigger than that over the last couple of years. I think that might be the biggest differential you've had.
It's a pretty big one. Yeah.
Two tutties. Two tutties.
Yeah. And maybe, if you money line the under with the Marshall money line, that's not bad. You're going to get
No,
over even money on that one.
probably
So,
because you're minus 205 for Marshall money line.
yeah.
But if you take the under with that, you're not going to get even, but you're going to get close.
Oh, I think with the money line with it, I think you get a little over even with the two
You
together.
think? Hold
I
on, let
think
me
so.
try it.
Yeah, do it. And while
Ah,
Mike's,
it's not
oh,
going to
sorry,
tell me
Mike. I,
because they can't find my location. It doesn't know where I am. I'm
oh,
on
Mike,
Wi-Fi. I'm
Mike,
here.
we gotta get you the VP. What do you call it? VPN. We're just
No, I
two
can't
old
do
guys.
that. I can't do VPN. No, 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 no. I'll just do it on my phone, but I can't do it on my phone because I'm doing this on my phone because my computer sucks. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. So I couldn't really tell you like what it's going to be, but it'll be close to a plus or an even. It's not a bad bet. Take the money line and the under.
The other one, Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. My line on that is Wake Forest minus 7.5. That I'm surprised that line has dropped to where it is. We're at 3.5 right now. I would lean Wake in that one. My system's total is right on where it was. I had 58 on that one. So my one would be Wake Forest in that one. Mike, moving to our next, and thanks again, Riley, for the question. Oh, Mike, he had one other one. Also curious, any thoughts on the Jordan Travis injury? Is he 100%? Never heard anything after the last game. He's banged up right now. He's going to play, but he's banged up. Mike, the next one from our buddy Mike Huseman, who is in Huntington, West Virginia, is going to the Marshall Virginia Tech game today. So maybe we should ask him his opinion on that one. But he asks us, do you guys like Kentucky to cover 13 on the road at Vanderbilt? Hopefully Vanderbilt Stadium. The construction is done at this point. Mike, who do you like in
Does
that
it
one?
matter? Does it matter if the construction's done? I mean,
Maybe
it's a
not.
high school atmosphere. Nobody shows up to those games. Yeah, I like Kentucky. Kentucky's one of those teams. Like Utah's one of those teams this season where I've just been like, bang Utah even without rising, and we'll get to that game later. Kentucky's one of those teams that I've been as well very high on. I mean, Liam Cohen with the health scare, prayers up for him, but he makes a difference in that offense. Devin Leary is obviously a big upgrade over Will Levis. The offensive line's playing better. Vanderbilt can't hang. I like Kentucky laying 13 there.
Agreed. Yeah, my line is Kentucky minus 16.1. Anything 2 touchdowns or less, I would take that. I'd be on the Kentucky side. I also like in that game there was a couple props I liked. I'm more on the prop of that game than the other ones. I like the over on Tavion Robinson, their receiver. At DraftKings, these were within a yard. Tavion Robinson was at 48.5. Barry and Brown, their other receiver, was at 47.5. I go over on Robinson and under on Brown are two of my prop angles on that one. Mike, our next question is from Dan, and thanks for the question, Mike. Dan says, hey guys, what are your pregame rituals? Adult beverages, food. I got ribs on the smoker and some beer on ice. That sounds good. Um, Mike, what are your pregame rituals? And thanks for the question, Dan.
I want to hang out with Dan. I want
Yeah.
ribs. Right now, it's this. the coffee, the nectar of the gods to keep me awake because I'm old and sleepy. Um, I'm not going to go adult beverages because I can't last. I mean, if I have a few beers at noon, I might need a nap at 3:30. So I go with your typical cancer-causing sodas throughout the day, and of course, sometimes I'll go out to a bar, have some nice food, appetizers. Sometimes I'll just stay home. Biggest sandwich I can get and chips for the afternoon games, and then something like pizza or Taco Bell or something for the evening. All disgusting food that leads to me looking like this, but it's my Saturday. I mean, what do you want from me? But this right now is what I need: coffee.
Yeah, same. Yeah, Saturday mornings, my ritual is hanging out with my buddy Mike Farrell and y'all out there, and then for when for 10:30 my time Central, when we get off, I spend the next 30 minutes banging in even more bets than I made during the week.
Weird. That's
I got a lot
that's
of
weird.
money out there, but then the 30 minutes, because Mike, you and I will be talking, and I'll get more bullish on a game that I was confident in, or someone will ask us about a game maybe that was a little off my radar, but then the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, I got to bet that. And then, put in a couple more props. And then, yeah, during the day, I got 5 screens. I got 3 up. I got a projector in the middle, 2 TVs on the side, and then I got the 2 laptops so I can monitor 5 games at once. And then on one of my laptops, I got I think I'm on 7 sport. I don't want to sound like a degenerate, but you guys already know I am. I think I'm on
You are.
7 sports books. So then I'll have on one of the laptops, I'll have the 7 tabs open on the live betting thing. So if I spot anything, I just immediately go in, bang in a bet. And then we got Twitter on the 8th tab, right? So then, we're going back and forth, seeing the takes people got, banging in live bets, watching our games. It's a good time. And then some adult beverages later on, Mike. But yeah, I'm with Mike. I can't do that in the morning anymore. Mike, as you know, I went to grad school at Iowa. We used to show up there for the 11 a.m. games to tailgate at like 6 a.m. Thor, I think is too old for that now. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
used to do that. I mean, when I was in college,
yeah,
or even after college. So there's this the Yale Bowl where Yale plays Harvard every year. We used to go down there and start drinking at 6 a.m. And just get blasted. But once I got into media, when I was in my mid-20s, there was no more drinking because I had to be in the press box. I had to be presentable. So my tailgating ended in the mid-20s, and it's not coming back.
yeah. It's a different thing. You get up into the box, then they give you the free food and whatnot. But yeah, no
I
booze
ate
up there.
I went from drinking mass quantities of alcohol and beer to honestly, the best press box for me is the Boston College one with clam chowder.
They give you clam chowder up there?
Oh, it's the best clam chowder ever, too. I mean, my record is 6 bowls, and then I almost threw up. But
6 balls in one afternoon?
yeah, it'll
Oh
give you
God.
everything up there. But the clam chowder, because that's specific to Boston,
Yeah.
legal seafood clam chowder. I mean, I don't need alcohol. I just needed that.
Yeah, we need to talk to the Minnesota press box people. Very friendly up there, but we could use some clam chowder. Last time I went to a game, Mike, the Nebraska Minnesota game, they put the food spread out only in the first quarter, and then they yanked it back. Like I went up in the second quarter. I'm like, all right,
Okay,
it's dinner time, and then it's
that's
just gone. It's
what? So
right.
here, Boston
That's
College,
what I
right?
thought.
My local school,
Yeah.
they have a spread before the game for the media. So they have breakfast. They do a full breakfast. And then they have a lunch spread if it's an afternoon game. And then if it's an evening game, they have a dinner spread. And they never close it down. They never shut it down whatsoever. Then they have all the desserts. I mean, you could sit there and eat probably 18,000 calories in one day. They never shut it down.
We got to have the Boston College people talk to the Minnesota people. Hopefully,
Well, Minnesota
Minnesota
doesn't know what they're
admin is
doing.
listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
add to our spread. Fireman asks us, is Pitt covering against UNC? Mike, we're hitting that one later, right? Or are we? No, we
I
didn't
don't
have
know.
that
It's
on here,
not on
actually.
our thing. No,
Okay.
because why? Why are
So,
we hitting it? Because Pat Narduzzi and Pitt stink. They're getting 7. They're not going to cover that. The offense is horrible. Dracovic, who's been around college football for 15
stinks
years, who looked good for one half a season at BC when he was
because he
running the
played with
ball around.
Zay.
Yeah, but he's awful. They
Yeah.
have no solution behind him. They got Valu or whatever, the transfer from Penn State, which people are the theory that Narduzzi
Oh, the
won't play him
Canadian
because
kid,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
this is the dumb Pitt fans' theory is that they won't play him because he transferred in from Penn State. Why take him then? Throw him out there.
Yeah.
Jacobic's horrible, and North Carolina actually showing some improvement, at least to me defensively. You know, The 50 number for the over/under is intriguing as well. I'm going under because Pitt can't score, but give me North Carolina. I'll lay the 7.
I'm happy to lay the points too. I have a North Carolina -6.5 ticket. I'd still lay at 7 though. Pitt fooled me for the last time this season. Last week, I was on them against West Virginia. I've seen that West Virginia team not very good, and Pitt
I
just
agree.
could
I was with you.
not
I was
get
with
over
you.
them.
All they could do is run. Pitt's defense isn't bad, and Nardizzi is a defensive guy, but the offense is atrocious. So I was with you on that one. I had Pitt winning and covering that game, and they just disappointed.
Something looks wrong with Jurkovic. It's not just the like
He's
he
been
doesn't.
hurt 15 times in his career.
He's always hurt, and I think he might be hurt now. Like the movement with that kid, it's like awkward to watch. So I'm on the under for his rushing today, Jurkovic, because he just looks like a guy that shouldn't be leaving the pocket, kind of a thing, or even in the pocket in the first place. To your point, Mike, but it was like the book had said it like 20 or something like that. I don't think he's getting the 20 rushing yards, and he might be a sitting duck back there. I did go over and hoping that he stays in the game the whole time. His passing, because the books have now they're just crashing that thing down. You can get it in the hundreds. Which if you before the season, if you knew you could get Jurkovic in the hundreds for his prop against UNC, which their defense played a little bit better this year, but it's still not great. And I
the
think
worry there is
Pitt's going to be throwing late.
The worry is that he gets benched because
it's bench or injury is what you're concerned about for sure.
It's in Pitt, and the Boo Birds are going to come out the first or second series because they've been horrible on offense. So I'm not touching any. I like the under props for Jukova because he could be out in the first quarter, but I'm not taking anything over.
Yeah, Hammond, I shade his a little bit over as well because they set him pretty low, just considering the defense that you're against, right? But overall, definitely on UNC in that game. It's just hard to imagine Pitt staying up with them, even if they can carve out some yards in garbage time, whatever. We the people and thank you, Fireman 757 for that last question. We the people, Mike asks us thoughts on Barry and Brown getting in the box.
You already shaded him under. I don't think you have him scoring, right?
Yeah. I go under on him. I'm over on Tavion Robinson in that one. Brandon Appel asks us, what's up, Brandon? Asks us, can Rutgers cover? This is an interesting one, Mike. The Rutgers at Michigan. I like this Rutgers team a bit.
Yeah, good for you. They're not covering this.
You don't like
them?
them?
They've lost some games against Michigan, 50-0, and no, Michigan, and this is the other thing too, is like Michigan is flown under the radar. Harbaugh's suspension kind of in the back burner. Nobody's really talking about Michigan. Is Georgia good? Is Alabama done? Ohio State, Notre Dame. Nobody's talking about Michigan. This is their statement game against Rutgers. Of course, they're going to win this game probably by 30 to 40 points.
Yeah, my line I'm not touching the side, but my line is Michigan -26, and my total. There's a bigger discrepancy with the total. My system actually leans the over is at 50.6 for the total. It'll be interesting to see if, Jim coming back, if he lets JJ McCarthy off the hook here, take some more chances. The game against Bowling Green, Michigan wasn't showing nothing. It was just like, especially after McCarthy threw that one pick early. They were like, all right, just run the ball. Let's get out of this game. Let's move to the Big Ten play.
And he threw 3, so I think he's going to have a pretty good passing game as well. So
he's going to bounce back. I think I agree with that. So we'll go Michigan on that one. Our next question is from Colby Verkouteren. I hope I pronounced that right. He said, "Hey guys, thoughts on Arizona, Stanford? Jaden Delore has to pass all over Stanford." Line movement 2 points in the direction of Arizona. Thanks for the question, Colby. I'm on Arizona. That was one of the first tickets I bought on Sunday. I'm on Arizona -9.5. I know that line has continued to just crash up, soar up, I should say. Depending on your book, it looks like it's at 12.5 at a decent amount of them, but there's also 13s. Like at Caesars right now, I'm seeing as a 13. Points bet is a 13. That's where it would get harder for me where this thing is right now. What I've wanted to do all week is if this thing hits 14 or really cross my fingers for 14.5, I was going to buy back half my Arizona bet on Stanford and give myself that huge middle between 10, 11, 12, 13, potentially 14. We'll have to see on that. But my line on this thing was Arizona -11.3. So I just think the line movements got a bit much. The concern for me with where it's getting is late backdoor Stanford cover. I don't think that Stanford can win this game. I like this Arizona team. I really like their offense. Their offense is going to light up Stanford, no doubt about it. But Arizona's defense remains not good. And so if Troy Taylor has a better game plan this week, the game plan of let's not throw to Ben Urasek, our best player, not a good one, I would suggest. If they can get back to doing what Troy Taylor was doing the first couple, especially against Hawaii, I think they could move the ball here a little bit, maybe come in through the back door. That's my thoughts on that one, Mike. Do you have
Arizona?
any?
I'm Arizona too. I mean, we didn't touch the game last week against Sac State. The number was low, and
that was oof.
They're horrible. I mean, they just you
and Taylor knows all those players. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Can't even beat your old team, and it's an FCS. I mean, that's
the game where they weren't throwing to Urasek. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. And it's kind of an embarrassing performance. So Arizona, give me their offense. They've got some weapons there. I don't think Stanford can really shut them down. And I think Stanford, if they have to play from behind, they're dead. They have no chance.
Yeah. SMU, I'm sorry, our next question is from Walt Bug. He says, can SMU cover? SMU is on the road today at TCU. I think the number on this is 6.5, but let me see if we had any.
7, I think.
6.5 or 7, depending on where you're looking. For me, that is right on my number. I got TCU -7 in that one.
I'm not betting it.
I think that's a stay away. That line just seems pretty fair to me.
I think they can cover. I do, but I'm not betting it. I mean, this is a big rivalry game for SMU. It's the last one we're ever going to see, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not touching that. That 7 number is just dangerous.
Here's one for you, Mike, from Steve DiNucci. He says, can the big play Texas Tech offense win against the West Virginia running game in Morgantown today?
Sure can. They absolutely sure can. Is he talking he's talking money line?
I think so.
I mean, they're going to win the football game. Texas Tech is. West Virginia's coming off that big backyard brawl. People don't understand how important that game is. That there's going to be a letdown. And Joey McGuire is a smart coach. He's going to look at that game film last week, and he's going to figure out all the things Narduzzi couldn't. Narduzzi is a smart coach too, but I think offensively Pitt just doesn't have what it takes to really stress West Virginia, and Texas Tech does. So they're going to win that game.
Yeah, this is like a sneaky, super duper important game on both sides, because if Texas Tech loses this and drops to 1-3, I don't think they're making a bowl game, Mike Farrell, and that would be tough for McGuire the year after. And then for West Virginia, Neil Brown sort of needs to win every winnable game this year to keep his job. He got the stay of execution. He got it last week against Pittsburgh. If he won this game, now all of a sudden he can sit back a little bit, and exhale. But if Neil Brown loses this game, you look the rest of their schedule, the last 8 games, it's like, how many more wins do we have here? So a sneaky important game on both sides, but I don't think there's any line value, to be honest. My line on that game is Texas Tech -5.5. That's the number at a decent amount of books right now. Some of them it's at 6. I just wouldn't touch that one. I think we got better value on the board. Thank you for the question. Next question from Jonathan Scharf. Oklahoma against Cincinnati. We hit that in the first segment, Jonathan. So if you want to go back, you can start at the beginning. I think that was
here's the Cliff Notes. We both like Oklahoma.
Cliff Notes. Mike Williams says, can Michigan cover? We just hit that one, yeah?
Yeah, I said yes. You were originally saying how much you like Rutgers, and then I just talked over you.
Yeah, I think I just wouldn't touch that one because, my take is Rutgers is pretty salty, more salty than in recent years. And even though my system showing maybe a line value, 1.5 on Michigan, that would be a stay away for me personally. Don,
whatever that is, New Amsterdam,
from New Amsterdam. He says, Mike, you got a Holy Cross question. This is right in your wheelhouse.
It's not a question. It's a gloat, and he can go to hell. You can read it.
Oh, well, he said, well, Holy Cross covered over BC that week, like I thought. You were right, Don. You were right. We were wrong.
Go to hell, Don. Straight to hell.
Fireman says, thanks, guys. Spot on with my thoughts on Pitt, for sure. Mike Lukovic asks us, Jamari Thrash, his prop line is 83.5 receiving yards today. Carson Steele is 67.5 rushing yards. That actually came down a little bit, at least from where it was at Prize Picks. And Nick Singleton scores a touchdown. I'll go, Mike. Is there anyone specifically on this one you want to hit, or else?
I'll just hit them all. I mean, Thrash over. That dude's
Go
a
over on
dude.
that too.
And
Agreed.
he's getting more and more targets. They're figuring out he's the guy. Steal under. Utah defense, to
Agreed.
me, very, very good.
Plus, you
And
have
Nick
the
Singleton,
rotation. Yeah.
it depends on the plus you're getting for Nick Singleton. I mean, that's going to be a low-scoring game. We're going to hit that one coming up. It's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be in the rain. It's going to be in the mud. It's going to be like, a rushing game, but it depends on the plus. Because, I don't know. If it's not, I don't know. If it's not a plus 220 or something like that, I'm not taking it. Singleton should score, but I'm not taking it unless I get a good plus.
I'm with Mike on this one. Over Thrash, under Steele, and I would shade the Singleton anytime touchdown. I would take that. Mega 7 Miles says, do you think Auburn can cover against Texas A&M? That's an interesting one. We didn't have it on the slate. We can hit that one quick. My line on it was Texas A&M minus 5.5. If that line's over a touchdown, I think that's where it is right now.
Yeah, it was 8 before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be over a touchdown.
Not Mike. It's 9.5 at a couple bucks right now. So I guess there's been more money going in on A&M today.
Yeah, 9 live.
I would go Auburn with the line there.
I would go Auburn too. Honestly, I don't trust this A&M team whatsoever. I'm not a big, proponent of Auburn. I think they're a rebuild, obviously. I don't like the quarterback play. They got good running backs. They got a good defense. I don't trust A&M at all. This could be, there's a possibility. I mean, the money line's plus 280, and I'm not saying to jam it, but this is a possibility of an upset that sends Jimbo Fisher spinning out of college football or back to Morgantown, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Going for the upset.
This is a game to watch. Just take the 9 and just be happy you covered. But this is a game to watch.
Okay. Yeah, I think we agree on that one. We both take the points with the dog. And then we got our last one, and then we'll get back to the games. Then we'll get back to your questions later on. So keep asking them. We the people ask, what do you guys think? What do you guys think shoots out the obvious TCU game?
He's just looking for like high scoring games.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we already talked about Wake. I think that's going to be a big shootout.
The games where I have the highest projected points, my system does. SMU and TCU is the highest one today, Mike, 74.4. Then we just talked about another one, Texas Tech and West Virginia. My system's way off on that, or in terms of the Vegas number, is way over it, 71.5. The third one, Mike, won't surprise you, is Colorado and Oregon.
Yeah,
my system at 70.1 on that one.
Yep. And I think, low key, Georgia Tech Wake is going to be a high scoring game too, because neither team could stop anybody. So those are the ones that kind of stand out to me as far as like if you're looking for shootouts. UTSA Tennessee also could be pretty high. Tennessee's defense is horrendous. UTSA can't stop anybody, so look at that one too.
We're going to get back to the games now, but guys, keep putting in your questions. We'll get back to them in a little bit. And everyone in the room, please hit like on the deal. It helps us get the word out there about the show. Appreciate that. Mike, getting into the afternoon games now, the aforementioned Oregon and Colorado next on our docket. The line right now are we sitting at 21 with Oregon? Yep. That's where it was before the show. So Oregon minus 21, Mike. This game is in Eugene. Who do you like in this one?
I'm just going to take Colorado just simply because, I've looked foolish against the spread with them before. I mean, I said the TCU game could be 50-0, 50-10. This game could be 60-10, but I don't think it will be. I think Colorado's going to score points, even without Travis Hunter. I think the over is the play here. I'm not taking the side, but I would lean towards Colorado covering this and losing a 3-touchdown game in a high-scoring affair.
I'm on so many props in this one, so maybe I'll just start there. I'm on the Bo Nix. I have like a double thing going on with Bo Nix. I'm on the over of his rushing yards. If you like, it was earlier this week. It was at 28.5 on Prize Picks. I'm not sure where people have their books out there, but Bo Nix runs around a little bit more, around like between the 20s. But the one where I faded it was the Bo Nix rushing touchdown. I went under the half of one. It's really interesting. They're not using him as much around the goal line as a runner as they did during a brief stretch of last year. You look at his aggregate stats, Bo Nix, he had a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, but they all came in this stretch where it was, I'm doing this off memory, but it was like mid-October to for like a month plus. He had games in there with multiple ones with 3 rushing touchdowns, one with 2, yada yada. But Bo Nix has not rushed for a touchdown. I think it was he hasn't yet this year, and the last 2-3 games last year, something like that, he didn't rush for a touchdown either. So it's been like 5 games, something like that, where he hasn't rushed for a touchdown. So I'm on the under of that one. One of my favorite props this week is the over receiving on Bucky Irving, which I feel like was set way too low. I got it at 20.5. That one I'm on both Prize Picks and the offshore book. I really like that one. Bucky Irving gets over that all the time with the receiving thing. And this game, I mean, Oregon's going to be looking to put it on Colorado. You think of shootout, whatever. Early on in that game, they're going to be aggressive and whatnot. And Bo Nix is aggressive in terms of their tempo and stuff like that. But Bo Nix is, the reason his accuracy jumped up this, last season, whatever, they're doing the shorter throws. You look at the A-dot, whatnot, he targets the running backs a lot. So that was another one I like there. And then I'm sorry to say for Colorado, I've been on Colorado all 3 times, Mike, as you know. This week I'm not. This week I'm laying the points with Oregon. I'm also on the under of the Shadir Sanders number at Prize Picks all week. It's been 335.5. I'd be surprised if he gets at 335.5. In this one, Mike, you look at the other side, the Oregon defense. They are the Oregon pass defense, number 19 in success rate, number 6 in yards per drop back, number 16 in adjusted air yards per attempt. I think they're going to have a good game plan here. Colorado State sort of showed the way. You play man coverage on the outside. You have your safeties crash down and try to get there at the catch point, right? You try to disrupt those routes really early because it's a lot of the timing stuff, the short game. Shadir and the Colorado receivers, they haven't yet flowered that thing out to take the more shots downfield. They're just trying to beat you with the efficiency. I think there's things you can do to hinder that, and Oregon now has the secondary where they're able to do that. Oregon's going to name their how many points they score. They're going to be able to light up this Colorado defense, but I think Oregon's defense can do enough to suppress the scoring on the other side. So that was the one I was on there. Mike, any other thoughts on that one?
I'm on the under for the passing yards as well. Right now it's 336.5, at least looking at DraftKings. I'm on slightly on the over for Bo Nix, passing yards at 315.5. I think he's going to have a big game. I don't think there's any way they can stop him. I think Oregon's going to do what they want to do here. The biggest thing for me, though, is, even though I'm on under for Sanders in his passing yards, I still think Colorado is going to be able to score some late garbage points or, keep themselves, in this game within the 21. I'm leaning on the over. I think it's going to be sort of a shootout there. So it kind of flies in the face. Sanders would have to probably throw for 400 yards to keep this game somewhat close. I don't think it's going to be a close game, but I have a sneaky feeling there's going to be a late score or something that screws up that 21 for people. So I'm not taking the side. I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over and we're going 70.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup for Colorado because if you had your druthers, the way that you would attack the Oregon defense, it's with your run game. Like Utah is a team that matches up pretty good against this Oregon team. It's tough if you can only throw into it. Colorado, we just haven't seen them manufacture enough of a ground game so far. And they very quickly into games are just like, we're just going to throw every play. I don't know if they can keep up with Oregon doing that, throwing into the teeth of that good pass defense. We'll have to see on that one, but I'm not sure. One other prop angle, I like the Tez Johnson overs. Tez is Bo Nix's brother, and Bo Nix transferred there first. Tez joined him this offseason. Last week, Tez really got on track. Bo Nix was looking at him more. That number's under 50. I'm going over on that one. Bo Nix going to throw for a lot of yards in this game.
The other thing, there's an Oregon team total of 45.5. I would go over that too.
They're probably going to put up more than that. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Mike, next game on our docket, staying in the Pac-12, UCLA traveling to Utah. We got all kinds of interesting things going on with this one. This was like, what did Brian Fantana say in Anchorman where he's down with the Panda Watch? We were on Cam Rising Watch this week. And there was one day where the line came down and then it was like Cam Rising is going to start. You're going to play. Now the line has gone sort of the other way. I think it's 3.5 live right now. with reports this morning that Cam Rising won't start, but Whittingham has been he's been very selective with his language on this stuff. So it leads you to believe, was he going to play? Like, is this
Right.
Break glass in case of emergency? Mike, you think that Cam Rising has been cleared, but just won't start in this game, but could be active and available. Tell the people more about that situation. Who
Yeah,
you like in
I
this
think they're
game?
going to eat. I think they're going to ease him in. I think this is a good game. Where now again, I don't think it's a break glass. I mean, I think Utah is going to handle this game. I have them covering. I have them winning. I like the under. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, especially I don't think UCLA with we talked about Dante Moore on the podcast earlier in the week. This is a Utah team that takes advantage of mistakes. Is very difficult. They're very disciplined. So I think the under here is the play. But I do like Utah if you want to take a side on it. And I think you're going to see Rising, play. He's not going to start, but I think you're going to see him play here too. So, this is the game we're going to see Cam Rising finally is my guess. So if you want to parlay, take Utah to cover with the under.
Mike, there's books where, this thing is down to 3. Caesar's points bet, and well, those are the 2 that I can see. I think that's, it's obviously a market reaction to hearing that Rising is not going to start this game. I actually think that makes Utah a really good deal in this game. Utah is at home, and you're welcoming in a team where I like a lot of the positions on UCLA, and I think Dante Moore is going to be awesome someday. This is asking a lot for him to go on the road into altitude to play this undefeated Utah team that has a nasty defense. Utah can shut out the lights on the running game. Mike, it's one reason why we are on both of us are on the under of Carson Steele. We both have tickets on that. His rushing total. If Utah can indeed do that and shut out the lights on UCLA's running game, that puts a ton of pressure on Dante Moore to have to win this game through the air. Again, Dante Moore's first road game, and this is about as nasty as it gets for defenses in the nation. This is a really tough ask for them. I don't care if it's Nate Johnson scrambling around or whatever. If we don't see Rising, I think Utah's covering this game. My system's showing value on Utah. I actually have Utah minus 6.8 in this game. I just think there's value there, especially with the number coming down. Definitely on the Utes. We agree on that one. Mike, our last game kicking off at 3:30 Eastern today. Very interesting one here, Mike. Ole Miss traveling to Alabama as a 7-point underdog. Are you believing in the Alabama bounce back theory after a couple of down weeks for them? Or do you think this Alabama team, like me, just stinks and Ole Miss is going to give them a scare and or win today?
I'm not ready to give up yet. I mean, I think, that going away from Milroe, going back to Milroe, I think that's the right decision. Personally, I think the team itself prefers Milroe. It's nothing against Buckner, nothing against Ty Simpson, but I don't think Buckner's good, and I don't think Ty Simpson's ready. I think Tommy Rees will finally figure out a way to utilize the strengths of Jalen Milroe. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Believe it or not, Alabama is extremely efficient in the red zone this season, despite the fact that they lost the one game to Texas and double digits at home for the first time in 100 billion years. Ole Miss is going to put up points as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. So I was leaning towards the side, but I don't like the 7. So I'm going to say take the over here. I think Alabama wins the game. So if you want to money line this, you're probably going to get something that's not horrible. But take the over here. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I'm on Ole Miss.
I know you are.
Yeah, I got the tickets.
You've given up on Alabama. You're giving up.
Yeah, I wasn't in on them. We've already made some money with fading Bama this year, and we're going to make some more. Mike, today not only am I going to cash my Mississippi plus 6.5 ticket, not only am I going to cash my Mississippi moneyline ticket, I'm also cashing my Alabama under 10.5 win ticket today. We're just going to bring it all into the bookie. I'm just going to be shoving little sheets of paper at him.
Do they pay you? They're not going to pay you until the season's over.
They're not going to, but I'm going to bring that ticket with me to the window every week until then. Yeah,
the window.
Yeah,
now, which window? Is this a virtual window? Do you have a real window, or is this an actual bookie who's going to punch you right in the throat and say, "I'm not paying you until the end of the season"?
Yeah, I mean they're in Antigua and Barbados, and it's a virtual window for sure. But
right, so
I'm going to use it to
guy that's going to rough you up.
No, But
Not good.
this game, I don't think this is a good matchup for Alabama. Like obviously I'm lower on Alabama, but I don't think they match up very well against this Mississippi team. When Mike, you're mentioning Jalen Milroe, when Milroe plays, what you can do is guard against how down Alabama's offensive line is. Obviously, he has more mobility. If you were watching that South Florida game, South Florida was getting after both Buckner and Simpson, sacking them consistently. And we've seen all the holes there. Milroe with the mobility allows them, again, to guard against that a little bit. And you can carve out more of the running game. Those are the two things that they can do. He also gives you a little bit of an explosive element in the passing game in that he has a strong arm. He can push that ball down the field. It's just the accuracy with that kid stinks. And it's one of the reasons why they can't stay on schedule when they have to pass the ball at all. You just can't trust them to hit those intermediate windows, whatnot. Alabama right now, 112th in success rate passing the ball in the nation. And they're just middling in explosion, 58th. And then overall on offense, 75th success rate, 84th explosion. That's tough. And then you look at the Alabama defense, what their profile is. They don't give up long runs, and they can also disrupt your short passing game. But they get nicked with the shorter runs, the efficiency stuff, the stuff that Quinshon Judkins is good at, the 4 to 5 to 6 yards per rip kind of stuff. Quinshon Judkins going to get that, keep Mississippi on schedule. And then the pass defense of Alabama, you can burn them deep. I think Jackson Dart off of play action, off the RPO game, going deep is going to be able to do that. Mississippi this year so far, number 5 in passing explosion offensively. Alabama's pass defense, something like the 80s in terms of allowing passing explosion there. I think this is a good matchup. Nick Saban, Mike, he's 28-2 straight up against former assistants. Lane Kiffin, a former assistant, but both those losses have come since October 2021. I think he's getting a third one today. Lane Kiffin shot to break through.
Ole Miss is 12-6 against the spread in their last 18 against Alabama. So this goes back to the Hugh Freeze days. I mean, they always play Alabama well. I'm not taking the side. I think Alabama's going to win the football game. So you and I disagree on that. But
get your popcorn ready, Mike. I hope Lane doesn't say that. That was the bad one he had.
So if Alabama loses, I mean, the storylines are going to be amazing. They already were after the USF game, of course, after Texas. Alabama comes back, wins this game by 14 points, then what do we say? So it's going to be real fun to watch, and the result is going to be, fun to at least write about. I'll tell you that much.
For sure. Guys, we'll get back to your questions here in a second. So if you have any questions, quick type them into the chat. We'll get to them here in 1 second. Before I do, I want to encourage everyone to join Betting Pros' college football contest, which you can do throughout the season. You just join the thing. It's already tracking your picks, and it will count your picks that you've made in the app, as you track them, whatnot. The contest is graded on ROI. So if you're doing well on ROI in particular, you should join the contest, but join it either way. The link is bettingpros.com/college. Monthly giveaways. We have a season-long grand prize for whoever wins it at the end. Again, you can join it using your profile. It will count your score so far, and it's scored on ROI. Everyone out there in the chat, please right now, hit that little thumb or whatever. We can get the word out there, and let's jump back into the mailbag and answer some of your questions. Mike, where are we at right now? We're at Nicholas
BYU
Hulda
in Kansas, man.
Oh, Nicholas Hulda, thank you so much for the question about Rock Chalk and
here we go. Here's
and
10
BYU
on Kansas, everybody.
Yeah, because we didn't have that on the sheet today, so I'm excited someone asked about it. Mike, before I wax poetic about Kansas, do you have any thoughts
Listen,
on this?
I love Kansas. I like Lance. I think this is, obviously the opportunity to go 4-0. 9 is a lot. I'm not taking that. I'm taking BYU to cover 9.
So I think it's a lot too. Mike, as you know, I love Rock Chalk. I'm surprised with where this line is. My line on it was Kansas minus 3.6, like something like that. I'm just surprised with how high this thing has gotten, where it's near double. Yeah, 3.6, near double digits. What I like more in this game is the over. I really like the over. My system's total on this game is 68.9.
Wow, Rock Chalk, 55.5 live.
Yeah. I like that over. BYU might be able to carve out some stuff, particularly on the ground. Mike, they got that LJ Martin guy. I'm on a couple of his overs at the book and his anytime touchdown. I'm also on the anytime touchdown of Devin Neal. And the receivers, I went under on. I think I went under on Grimm. Hold on, let me pull this up quick. Don't miscite it. Yeah, I went under on Grimm. He was in the mid 40s. And then let's see. Looking at my stuff right now. Skinner I had a bet on. I went over on Quentin Skinner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's 35 and a half. I do like Daniels over 241 and a half here.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, Daniels, they might shade that a little bit lower because the Nevada game last week, late at night, he was hit or miss, but Daniels was awesome the week before coming back against Illinois. And that Nevada game was a really weird spot where you had to travel back. Mike, is Reno in Mountain or Pacific?
That's a good question.
I never know the time zones, but Kansas had to go back at least one time zone, maybe two, and then you have the late kickoff. So it's like Mountain. This super weird spot.
Utah's Mountain, so I think Nevada's Mountain.
Yeah. Either way, bad spot for Kansas. They still pulled out the win, but yeah, for me it's props and then the over the total, just because this line is the market appears to like Kansas even more than me, which I never thought was possible. But I'm certainly not taking BYU in that game. Next question, Mike, comes from, and thanks again for the question, Nick. Mega 7 Miles says, do you think Iowa covers against Penn State? We're going to talk about that one in just a second here. So appreciate that. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. Cool Thugger Jackson, I think, says, how do you guys feel about Colorado State over 11.5 points in the first half? Well, I'll tell you, I like Colorado State in that game, period. If it's the team total of 11.5, I think I would go over that. The implied is the total is 51.5, around there somewhere. And middle is a 3-point favorite. So I think even the implication, you'd be fine on that one. But I think Colorado State's going to score points in this game. I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to get a little bit more into this one later on. But just speaking to your question specifically, Middle Tennessee State, the way their defense is constituted, they have one of the better front sevens of like that mid-tier of the G5, certainly in the CUSA. Where they struggle, it's in the secondary. And so last year, Middle Tennessee was my favorite team to handicap because they're so, on both sides of the ball, they're so skewed one way. On offense, they just do the quick-hitting passing game. They cannot run. And so when you found them playing teams that can defend the pass and then also can pass on them, those are the times when you play against Middle. And then you can also find the other way where Middle is a really good matchup against that team. Colorado State destroyed Colorado with that short passing game. Torrey Horton and the other kid, I'm sorry to the other kid, I'm forgetting his name right away, but that broke out last week. The other receiver on the other side, Louis Brown, I think is his name. And then Dalen Holker looks great as well. He can hurt you in the intermediate area just a little bit deeper, but they have all those shallow crossers. I think that's going to be really a big problem for Middle Tennessee State's secondary, which isn't good as is. Now they got to chase around Torrey Horton, and they put two guys on him. Now Holker can free himself up. Really skilled guy. I like that Colorado State offense. Mike, did you have any thoughts on that one? You go over on that one too?
He's asking how do you guys feel about Colorado over 11.5 points in the first half. I think he's talking about Colorado, Oregon. I know you're talking about Colorado State, but
yeah, I was just excited to talk about Colorado State.
I know you get a little nutty, and so sometimes you notice I may tune out because you just you go. But let's focus. Colorado over 11.5 in the first half. Yeah, I'll take that because I got this over 70. If they don't score 11.5, then I'm relying on Oregon to cover 55 points. So yes, go over the 11.5 point first half. Now I love the deep dive about the shallow crosses and guys that no one's ever heard of. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Colorado State's team total is, but clearly I like that one. This one with Colorado, I think that one seems right on the line. That seems fair to me, so I'd probably stay away from that one. Mike Huseman asks us, does FAU cover plus 16 at Illinois with Daniel Richardson as the new QB? Tough times for Tom Herman, Mike, losing Mr. Casey Thompson. I don't know that, Mike, I'm curious your take on this. Let's start here with this one. Do you think that Daniel Richardson is a tangible downgrade from Casey Thompson, or do you think those two guys are fairly close?
I think they're fairly close. I mean, Casey Thompson, we saw spots of at Texas. We never really saw anything great at Nebraska, this third stop now. I don't think it's a discernible drop off, and I don't like Illinois giving anybody 16 points. I mean, that
No.
offense stinks. Altmaier was horrible. They can't
It
run
was.
the ball. Give me FAU to cover 16. I don't think they're going to win the game, but Illinois shouldn't be laying 16 points against anybody.
Everything Mike said. I agree with all that stuff. My line is Illinois minus 12.6. To get around to laying all those points with Illinois, you would have to think that Richardson is a big downgrade over Thompson. We're talking like 4 points, 3.5 points. I don't think that is what it is. I think Richardson's closer to Thompson than that. 2K says, I like Washington to cover the 20.5 with Penix to go over 359.5 passing yards. And Mike, he wants our thoughts on Cal Washington and any other props. We'll keep hitting the props as we go.
Yeah.
Is there a side you like in Cal Washington, Mike?
I'm sure you have props on this because you take
Of course.
every Washington receiver. I'm not going to bet against Penix anymore. I mean, last week I said it was ridiculous. I think it was 355.5 or something against Michigan State. Michigan State's not a good team or defense, but he got that almost in the first half. They're throwing the ball every down. There's no way you can stop these receivers. There's no way you can stop this offense. At least if you're a Cal football team, maybe somebody else can. So give me the over on Penix, and I do like Washington to cover the 20.5.
Yeah, I was looking up the injury status on McMillan, but it looks like he's fine. He had an injury right before halftime against Michigan State. Looks like he's a full go in this one. I'm on the Aduns, Mike. I was laughing because you're right. I was on the Adunze over earlier this week. I think it was 101 or something like that.
And it's 105 now, so you got it cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, still going up. So yeah, I mean, I was on the over that one. The Penix passing yards has gotten so high, but like justifiably so. But like I don't know if I'm going to be taking that one in particular. But as far as the side on this game, I'll tell you what my system's line is: Washington minus 19.8. I just thought that one was a little bit close. I just think there's better value elsewhere on the board. So that one was a stay away for me. A-Rock asks us, Mike, thoughts on the best team from Texas, Texas State, A-Rock says, to cover against Nevada and the over-under of that game. I'll tell you where. So my system.
What's your system say?
I got Texas State minus 15.2. I think that line's 17 or so. My system's total actually is the under, which is in part because of Nevada plays that way. They're really slow, but Texas State could have put up a hundy last week against, was it Jackson State they played, the FCS team? I thought we might have our shot for the first 100 of my lifetime in college football, but Texas State put in Malik Hornsby in the second half and just had him scramble around and whatnot. They finished in the 70s. Is there, I guess, like for me, I probably wouldn't bet this. I'm not taking, even though I'm showing a little bit of value on Nevada. I've seen that Nevada team play. They got smoked at home by Idaho. I'm not taking them against this Texas State team.
I don't trust Nevada at all. And I don't, the under, I mean, the over is 59. I would lean towards over, but
will you get enough help from Nevada is the big question.
Yeah, I'm not touching this game because Nevada doesn't want to play fast and they don't want to score. So
they're just going to try to turn it into a mud fest. Nevada is, and if they don't succeed, they're going to get run over here. But yeah, with the total, you're just wondering how many points is Nevada going to contribute to this thing. They're certainly going to try to shorten that game. Brandon Oppeld asks us, what's up, Brandon? Thoughts on Louisiana Tech to cover 20.5 against Nebraska? My line on that one is Nebraska minus 17.8. Where I'm showing a little bit more value because it's tough with Louisiana Tech and Bachmeier's banged up and all that sort of stuff. I don't love that Louisiana Tech team. I like the over there. My system's total is 56.4. I would go the over on that one. Louisiana Tech can't stop anybody, and Matt Rule at home getting the opportunity to put up a few more points, get people off his back about the offense. I think he'll take that opportunity. So I would go the over. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I would lay the 20.5. I mean, Bachmeier's not going to play, or if he does, it's going to be spot. So I would take the 20.5, as you mentioned, simply because Matt Rule needs to win the games he can win, and he needs to win them impressively. So I think they're not going to take the foot off the gas.
Yeah, and the as far as the Nebraska quarterback thing, they had Heinrich Harburg. Yeah, that one's not as big of a deal as Louisiana Tech quarterback because I'd rather have anyone in but Jeff Sims. So
Right.
whenever
Well, Heinrich
Nebraska
is
is starting
playing.
someone else,
Sims
yeah,
has an ankle injury, as I do air quotes there. So Heinrich is playing. So, it's going to help them for sure. Hale,
yeah.
Heinrich, Harburg, and Jeff Sims go away.
Yeah, maybe have the guy with the red wonky nose that with the doctor smock on just say, Jeff Sims, your leg injury. It's too bad can't play
They
again
should
this
put
season.
Jeff Sims. They should wheel him out in a wheelchair every week. So that's like, there's no way he can play. He can't even stand on it
We wish
because
he could. We support Jeff. We believe in Jeff, but you see him; he's
no.
medically incapacitated. Yeah,
That's right. We love him. We wish he was our quarterback, even though he's horrible.
don't let him anywhere near the field.
Nope.
Yeah. Mega 7 Mile says thoughts on Arkansas against LSU. We're talking about that one next segment, so
Yeah,
we'll
we
get to
are.
that one in just a
Yeah, we
second.
disagree on that one, so that's gonna be
We
fun.
do. And then the last one, and then we'll get back to the question at the very end. But 2112 says, what do you guys think about Jacksonville State? I guess the Jacksonville State money line. My line on that one is I got Jacksonville State minus 2.7. I know the line's higher than that. I'm not betting that one either way because Eastern Michigan, I'm going to use this game as a referendum for if Eastern Michigan actually sucks this year. They definitely might. They look like they suck right now, but I was talking about this with someone earlier this week. Eastern Michigan was the strangest team to monitor, like the sharp interest in over the summer. That their win total, Eastern Michigan, it started at like 6, something like that, maybe 6.5, but it was all the way up to 7.5. Right before the season, whatnot. The sharps just kept betting them over. I thought that I had them pretty aggressively ranked in my power rankings, and there was no way that I could get them up to 7.5. So I knew the market was way higher on Eastern Michigan than I was. So it's like, what are you sort of missing there? They have not been good so far. And Jacksonville State has had a pretty quick acclimation into the FBS with Rich Rod, running the ball pretty well. They can't throw. It is the one-handed offense, but they have been able to run. They play okay defense. I'm staying away. I'm a bystander in that one. I'm using it for information. Mike, do you have a thought on that one?
Nope, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. We did miss one
Oh, did I?
on
I'm sorry.
Mizzou and Memphis.
I skipped the Mizzou one? You don't say.
You did. I mean, so right now the live line is 7 Mizzou. I like Memphis.
I take Memphis too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a letdown game. So I like Memphis to cover the 7.
Yeah, and Brady Cook, he must be, with the line going that way. He's playing. Okay.
Yeah, I heard he's playing, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a letdown for them. So that was from our stews, and then we'll get this last one in before we go to the next games. Over under games before Florida fires worthless Billy Napier for Snook Slayer, who's got to be a Tennessee fan, who's got to be upset that Billy won. No, Billy's not on the hot seat anymore. Sorry, he just beat Tennessee. It's a big game. It's a big victory for them. Now, he loses his next game, he'll be on the hot seat again. But right now, can we just say Billy Napier's safe?
I think, yeah, for now, for sure.
Just for today, at least, for this weekend. Come on, you give the guy a break.
He's got to lose, 6, 7 more this year, I think, to get there. Then we get flaming hot. The schedule next year for Florida is
it's just
brutal.
Brutal. But that was a big win. I mean, it stems the tide of the boosters for 1 week where they can stop complaining about, Sunbelt Billy and we're falling behind everybody else. Now, if he goes out and blows it against Charlotte and my man Biff, then we got a problem.
Oh, yeah. Bogey. Yeah.
And they're going to lose at Kentucky the next week. But right now, let's let Billy rest safe. He's not on any hot seat. He's going to beat Charlotte. They're going to be a 3-1 football team. All will be well in Gainesville until they lose at Kentucky.
Yeah, I got Florida minus 29.9 in that one. But let's see if the fighting Biff Poggies.
Biff Poggies are going to cover that one. I would take that. I would take Biff to cover.
Let's go, Biff.
Biff is savvy.
I like Biffs. It's like Back to the Future, the whole thing. We need more Biffs.
Biff used to not like me. He was a high school coach at I think it was Gilman. Biff is a very rich person, by the way. He's very well off.
Yeah.
And I remember, they were gracious enough to let me, of course, get sideline passes for a high school football game. Of course they should. I mean, do they know who I am?
Mike Farrell. Yeah.
But I would go up there and hey, Biff, shake my hand. But then he started this website and this thing. I forget, it was Signing Day something Central, or started to invest in a business, wanted to bring me on. And my asking price was very high because I knew Biff was rich.
Mm,
And then they told me to
yeah.
go to hell. And then when he got to Michigan, he just completely didn't want to talk to me at all. So Biff
Wow.
is a different guy, but he's a good coach. I'll give him that.
Oh, Biff. He could have succeeded in that world, Farrell, if he brought you in, but
Oh my God.
tough
I
scene there.
was I was asking for like double my salary at Rivals at the time,
Might as
which
well.
is a lot of money, but
Yeah.
I could have made that thing something, and now Biff's, what's he doing now? Coaching? A head
Yeah.
coach?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like
whatever.
that scene in was it the second Back to the Future where then Michael J. Fox has to go into the big tower that Biff Tannen's living in, and he's got to negotiate with him there. That's what that was like.
Biff is like a bad guy name. It's a Biff, like Biff, kind of like a rich sweater tied around your neck,
Yeah.
like jerk. And that's kind of what Biff Poggi was. I don't know if he is now, but he kind of was.
We'll see today. Mike, moving on to the night games, 7 p.m. Eastern kickoff here. Oregon State, another one of these awesome Pac-12 games. Oregon State laying 3, heading to the Palouse to play Washington State. Who do you like in this one?
Under, under. I don't like the side here at all. It's a tough place to play. I like Oregon State. If you're going to put gun to my head and say pick one, I like Oregon State because I think they're going to win the football game. But give me the under. This is going to be, Oregon State's going to, their defense is nasty. It's underrated. They're going to keep this game low scoring. They're going to play a field possession game. They're not going to take a lot of risks here. They know how dangerous it is to play there. They're going to try to make this a close football game. And I think that's going to lead to well under, whatever it is, 57.5, 58. Take the under.
Under for me too. My system total on this one is 45.4. Oregon going to try to establish the run here a bit. Oregon State, I'm sorry, including with DJU. And then Washington State, Cam Ward's played better than certainly than I thought so far. But they're going to try to do it with the efficiency of the passing game. But I think I'm totally with you, Mike. I think this is going to be lower scoring game, probably a coin flip type outcome. With the 3, maybe I'd lean Oregon State, but I'm not betting that one. My system has Oregon State minus 3.6. The one concern for me with Oregon State is the guys they lost on defense were more on the back end there. They lost a couple guys to the NFL at cornerback. They had really good cornerbacks last couple of years, those long outside physical guys. New starters there this year, and they're going to have to contend with that quick hitting Wazoo passing game. It's been really, really good so far. And I've made this point 1,000 times already this season, but Washington State, one of the best against the spread records at home in Pullman over the last decade in college football. Just a tough place to play. So that's why I'm away from this side, but I would take the under as well with Mike.
10-3 in their last 13 games at home against the spread.
Great against the
Washington
spread team at
State.
home. That's
Yep.
a tough place to play. Very tough
Mm-hmm.
place to play.
Yep.
Mike, our next one, 7 p.m. Eastern kickoff, Arkansas at LSU. LSU, 17.5-point favorite right now around the market. Who do you like in this one?
So I'm going to say Arkansas because it's just too many points for me. And the Brian Kelly at, not at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is a fairly consistent coach. I think the effort was fairly consistent. I think he knew what he had and he played to the strengths of Notre Dame and he was a great coach there. I still don't think he's used to the SEC, and I think the up and down what we saw last year. I think you're going to see that continue. They're not going to lose this football game, but they just drilled Mississippi State. Mississippi State's defensive game plan was horrendous and horrible. Jaden Daniels on a high confidence. Malik Neighbors couldn't be stopped. I think Arkansas is going to game plan properly and try to keep this game close. I don't know if Rocket Sanders is playing or not. I don't
He's
think
out.
he will. Yeah, so that concerns me for sure. But I just think for a divisional game with LSU coming off, oh my God, they look great. They're national title contenders again. We're going to see a little bit of a half that we saw against Florida State. Not the second half where they got drilled, but just a sloppy Brian Kelly LSU type of half. You keep Arkansas in this. Arkansas loses, but they're going to lose by 10 to 14 points.
I would lean LSU in this one. So my concern there, the over is I'm more confident in the over of this game. But if I was doing this, I'd lean LSU. Big concern, obviously, with Rocket Sanders being out. You see, last week and times in the past where we've seen Rocket Sanders out. Arkansas's offense, it needs to put everything on KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson is a good complementary player. but but he's not he's not the Michael Jordan guy or whatever. Like, if your whole offense needs to center around, KJ is going to create stuff, it's not going to work out for you. He does better just grinding out the short yardage stuff, and then using him off the run game when the defense, like, sort of like he's a better version of DJU, like in my opinion. But like, you're not, when it's just him again, like you're going to struggle there. And this LSU defense against the really good offenses, when they can be multiple, you can keep them off balance. That's where I think they can fall a little bit short. We've seen that in the Florida State game. But when they face a one-handed offense, I think they can shut out the lights on that sort of thing. We seen that last week against Mississippi State. They shut off the lights on Mississippi State, and Mississippi State couldn't do anything. So I'm going to take. I lean towards LSU, but my favorite play in that one is the over of that one. I also had a couple props on it, just really quick. I'm taking the under on the Daniels rushing, which I feel like has gotten shaded just a little bit too high. It's in the 60s. The Jefferson ones, I thought his passing yardage was too high. It was 250 something. 250 and a half is where I got. I went under on that one. And then, is that all I got? That might be all I got. But
I'm taking the over on his rushing, 36 and a half. Daniels is 63 and a half live. I agree with you. Take the under on that for the rushing yards. You take KJ Jefferson's over at 36 and a half. Omar Spate's not going to play. The middle of the field is going to be open if he wants to tuck and run. They don't get a good pass rush. I mean, that's the one thing. It's like, you think of LSU, you think of these amazing, athletic ends, and, they don't use them properly. So I'm not worried about sack yardage as much. So I'd take KJ over the 36 and a half rushing yards. I don't trust him passing anymore after I thought it was an absolute lock that he'd get over like 212 against BYU, and he stunk. But I think he's going to run the ball a lot, and I think he's going to get over 36 and a half.
Yeah, LSU's defense is, last week I thought they did a way better job with Harold Perkins. Whereas against Florida State, sometimes it was like, where's Waldo? Trying to find Harold Perkins. Sometimes he'd be out of the broadcast shot, whatnot. They move him way back there, be like, what are you guys doing? Put him on the edge. But last week they were doing interesting things, moving him around again. But last week they used him to shut down that stupid quick hitting passing game of Mississippi, where Rodgers is just trying to turn out to the slot and throw to that guy. Perkins is just crashing that thing immediately, breaking up passes, and if not, tackling the dude right away. We'll see on that one. But yeah, that speaks to what Mike's talking about the pass rush down a little bit, but trying to use that kid as a chess piece. Mike, our favorite one today, moved to that one. Ohio State laying 3, heading to South Bend to face Notre Dame tonight. This one is a 7:30 Eastern kickoff. We argued about this one on the pod earlier. Let's get back into it. Tell the people who you like, Mike.
I like Ohio State. It comes down to, this is nothing against Notre Dame. This is going to come down to the pass rush if they can make Sam Hartman uncomfortable. Obviously, I think Notre Dame is going to struggle if that can occur. I think there's just too many dudes on Ohio State. I think you've got too many potential first-round NFL draft picks, too many NFL guys on this roster, too much speed on offense. I know a lot of people are trending towards Notre Dame in this. They can run the football with estimate. They have a really good offensive line. They protect Hartman well. And Hartman, they think, is the difference maker, of course, a quarterback, and he could be if he's clean. But I think you're going to see Ohio State actually put him under duress, get out in front in this game, cover the 3. I think they could win by 10.
Yeah, I'm with Notre Dame in this one. I think Notre Dame's going to win this game, and I do think Sam Hartman's the difference. That offense has been ridiculously efficient this year, both running and passing, and they also have the explosive element now. I think I had the stat they were, in terms of the advanced stats, Notre Dame is top 20, I think, in all 4 of those things, with their run efficiency, run explosion, pass efficiency, pass explosion. You don't notice it as much. In part, both these teams haven't really played anybody yet. But Notre Dame's offense, it runs at that slower tempo, but yet they still put up 40 plus in every game. And the defense is really good, as we know. Like the thing that you like in this matchup is Notre Dame has the guys in the secondary to potentially address Harrison. Nobody's shutting down Harrison or Buka, but at least try to slow them down enough, particularly when you have Notre Dame's pass rush going up against this Ohio State offensive line that was rebuilding at the beginning of the year. They had lost 3 guys to the NFL. You're cobbling that together. It looked okay initially, but again, they weren't playing anybody. And so now you have to face these really good edge rushers on the road there in South Bend. I like Notre Dame to upset Ohio State in this one, Mike.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a great game. So here's the narrative. Marcus Freeman beats, Ohio State. They're a national championship contender, and Sam Hartman is a Heisman, front runner. Ryan Day loses to Notre Dame, even though he'd be 48-7 with this loss. Is he the right guy? He better be Michigan or he's fired. Like, not just on the hot seat, but fired. And that's how ridiculous this can be. But the opposite way, if Ohio State wins this, I think people are going to start looking at them as the favorite in the Big Ten. So it's a really important game. But we completely disagree on this.
We disagree. I have a couple props. Audric Estime, I really like his anytime touchdown score in the one touchdown.
I agree with that too. Yep.
Yeah. And then his rushing number estimate was in the 74.5 is what I had seen before. I like that over. You can hammer away at that Ohio State front seven, and I think Notre Dame is going to do that in this game. The other ones I liked, I went under on Egbuka 5.5 receptions, and then the other one I went under on is I thought some of the numbers on their secondary receivers were a little bit off. I went over on Cade Stover, who the last two games has done really well, the tight end. And then I went on because his was set like in the high 20s, at least earlier this week. And then Julian Fleming, I had seen 33.5. I went under on that one.
It's 33.5.
They're not going to have enough to go around.
Marvin Harrison over 88.5. I know.
I could see that.
At this point until last year where he, didn't get shut down, but he almost approached that number. I think he's going to have a big game. I can't see him getting under 100. So 88.5 over for Marvin Harrison. And
then we'll just do quick thoughts on Iowa Penn State, Mike, because we're running out of time today. Yeah. This one has dropped to 14. We got a total of 40.5. Iowa at Penn State, the whiteout game. What are your thoughts on this one? Yeah.
Quick thought under. It's a whiteout game. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be slow. Take the under. I don't like the side. 14. Iowa plays Penn State pretty well. I would lean towards Iowa covering that, but take the under.
Yeah, the one thing to watch for in that game is Luke Lachey is out for Iowa, and they have a couple running back injuries right now. That's my only concern there. Otherwise, you definitely take the 14.5 or the 14, but that one scares me. I do lean towards Iowa, though. I'd rather have the hook, but today it dropped down to 14, but I will lean Iowa in that game. We'll see if we have any quick questions out the door. I don't think we do. We're running out of time.
Nope, we don't. So now Mike, we can get to the hammer.
Let's go. We'll get into the Thor's hammer and the Farrell fade segment, our last segment of the show. Mike, I teased this one earlier. I'm going with Colorado State getting the 3 here. Some people that I respect are on the other side of this game under the idea that Colorado State is going to have this big emotional letdown 1 week after the Colorado game. You get that to an extent. It was a late night game. It went into overtime. Obviously, that meant a lot to him, whatnot. But the whole thing about the letdown spot, sometimes I think that's a little bit overblown. I think that's the case here. What I see in this game, it's a on-field matchup type handicap disadvantage for Middle Tennessee, the team that's hosting and the favorite here, for reasons I was mentioning before. Middle Tennessee secondary is not good. What's good about them, it's the run-stopping front seven. Colorado State doesn't run anyway. All they want to do is the short, quick-hitting passing game, which was working to great effect against Colorado. Torrey Horton put up the ridiculous numbers, that Louis Brown guy, Holker, whatnot. They're going to be able to carve up Middle Tennessee through the air. And then on the other side of the ball, Middle Tennessee, what do they – they love the short passing game as well. And they're even shorter than any other team in the nation, just getting that ball up, bang, 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 bang. Colorado State showed last week the path to addressing that short passing game against Colorado. They had a great game plan. Again, they use the man coverage on the outside. They try to get their hands on you. It disrupts the timing of those passes a little bit more. I think Colorado State matches up really well against Middle Tennessee. If you're giving me 3 points, no problem. I'm on the money line too. We're going with the Rams. Mike, give the people your Farrell's fade for this week.
So I'm fading Ole Miss because I don't believe yet. It doesn't mean I believe in Alabama. I believe in Nick Saban. I think he's obviously not the tired, washed guy that a lot of people think he is, and he's a very, very smart coach. They're going to game plan here. They're going to make Jackson Dart throw the ball to beat them. I mean, Jackson Dart threw the ball 18 times against Georgia Tech. They struggled with Georgia Tech. They haven't beaten anybody this season, and yet we're anointing Ole Miss as the top 15 team and a team that can go in and potentially beat Alabama on the road. The 7 is a tough line. I'm not saying take that. Alabama's going to win this football game, and there's so many people predicting a 2-touchdown victory for Ole Miss, or this, that, and the other. I'm fading Ole Miss. They stunk at the end of last season. I know it was a lot of Kiffin distraction. Is he going to take the Auburn job and all that? They limped to a poor finish last season. They haven't beat anybody this year. Tulane was without, of course, the quarterback, and they struggled with them a little bit. Struggled with Georgia Tech. Fade Ole Miss. Go Alabama. You can lay the money line if you want to. You could take Alabama to 7, but Alabama's winning this football game.
A couple of, I don't know if I gave all my props for that game. So we got a minute left, so I'm going to hit him really quick. Jordan Watkins, I really like his over receiving yards. It was 48.5 earlier on this week. I saw that it got up into the low 50s. I would still go over on that. Even though I like, I'm on the other side of Farrell on this one, but even so, I like the over on Jalen Milroe passing, because I think they're going to have to throw a little bit. The one that I'm under on is Jace McClellan's rushing yards was 60.5 that I seen earlier this week. But just a couple prop angles in that one. We'll have to see how that goes. Mike, we have a crazy day of college football today. Like last week, it was underwhelming Saturday. We got all the matchups today. I'm looking forward to it. Everyone out there, thank you for joining us today. That's all the time we have, unfortunately. Want to encourage everyone to subscribe to the Betting Pros podcast, where Mike and I are now doing a midweek podcast. It's really fun. Get ahead of some of these numbers. We aren't able to talk as much about props on that one, but we do that here, do the totals, whatnot. But we hit 10 to 12 games in that midweek podcast. So check that. You can get ahead of some of those, some of the line movements and stuff like that. Until next week, and tell a friend next week, and we'll have more people join us. But until then, for Mike Farrell, I am Thor Nystrom. Let's cash some tickets today.